Before I attach my panel to the back of the box, I need to wrap my cover, my lid, and also the panel. So I've already decided what paper I'm going to use. I'm still going to use the Graphic 45, but I'm going to do a different design this time. I'm going to put this paper around the bottom of the box, and I'm going to use this paper for the lid and probably also for the panel. So I'm going to start with the lid. I'm going to wrap my paper from the bottom edge going up over the top and to the back. I'm going to leave a little border of black showing, so it doesn't have to be exactly. So I'm going to place my paper on here. I'm just going to flip it over because I'm going to mark where to trim. And again, I want to leave a little border of black on the left and right edges. So I'm going to trim from here down to about 6.5 inches. I'm going to put my, no, I do have my good blade on. So now I can eyeball this and it's going to fit right. So this time I'm going to use my two-sided tape, and I'm going to tape around the edges. Now on the lid, I'm going to put some tape close to where the paper is going to wrap over. I'm not going to go all the way to the left because I'm going to have that little black border visible, and I don't want my tape to be visible. And that's going to help hold the paper in place. I'm going to put a few more strips across on here. I'm really going to tape those edges down well. So I'm going to start, decide which is the front. It doesn't really matter. Pick the nicest side, I guess. And I'm going to remove a little bit of this two-sided tape from the edge. Just lift that up. And now I can position this. And I leave about 1/8 of an inch showing. I'm going to remove the rest of the tape backing. You want to get it as straight as possible, but I am going to be putting some embellishments along the edges, so if it's not perfectly straight, not to worry. And also I'm a little bit short on the back, so I might also put some little embellishments along the back to cover that up. There's always a way to fix little problems like that. So next I'm going to cover this piece. I'm going to use the same paper. Now I don't quite have enough to cover the entire piece, so I'm not going to cut this little border off here because I'm going to place that so that it's underneath my panel and it won't be visible anyways, and that'll give me enough paper to wrap around, or very close anyways. So it's the same width as my lid. So I'll just keep cutting the same piece of paper. Now we'll go under that, like that, and it won't completely cover, but it will for the most part. So I'm going to put some two-sided tape again around here. And also, in the meantime, I'm heating up my glue gun. Put a few pieces along these corners. Okay, and I'll put some here. Now I think I'm going to start just underneath the front section, and it'll hide this bottom part. So I'm going to place that like that. Make sure it's straight. Just fits underneath. Now, like I said, this is going to be glued down, so you won't even be able to see this. Now, I also want to cut a few pieces to put on the sides. So I'm going to make sure my paper's going in the same direction for whatever's going to be the front. This is going to be the front, so I'm going to have my design going up. Now this is 1 inch by 2 inches, or approximately, but I'll just measure it anyways. Cut there and here. Let's see if that works. Yeah, so that's going to fit like that. going to do the same thing on the other side. There we go. So now I can attach this to my stove top. So that will attach like that. So I think for this part I'm going to use a combination of my glue gun and some glue around the edges. Okay, now I'm going to get ready to position this. I'm going to put some glue from my glue gun. And make sure you get it straight the first time. So it's flush with the back. You could even put it down on the back if you want. That. And I let this dry. Now while this finishes drying, I'm going to wrap, or not wrap, I'm going to mat the sides of my box as well as the bottom. Now comes the fun part, which is embellishing the little oven. I'm going to start with the door. The door folds down and the hinge is attached behind the black background. So I'm going to start by making the hinge on my door. I'm going to use this red cardstock. So I place my door on my scoreboard, and at the 3 3/4 inch side I score at 1/2 inch. I want to make my corners rounded, so I'm using my punch. And then when I do the bottom part, I fold the hinge up and I punch through both layers. You don't have to round your corners if you don't want to. I just think it looks cute. Then I take my background. I've already rounded my corners here. And this is going to attach like that. So the hinge attaches behind the black background. So I'm going to put some two-sided tape along the edge of the background. And then I just place it flush against where the hinge folds up, and I center left to right, and I attach. Now I'm going to trim these little edges just straight down like that. Okay. So now I'm going to make the opening for the window. I take my template and I position it over my door, centered left to right, and I'm going to place it just a little bit lower because I'm going to have my handle up there. And then I use a pen and I just trace around the template. Then I'm going to use my trimmer and I'm going to cut just on the outside of the line so they're not visible. If they are visible, you can always add some little embellishments. I added some little flat back pearls on my other oven around the edge of the window, and that covers up any little imperfections. There we go. Next, I take the inside piece, and this is going to cover, when I add my my acetate, I'm going to be able to see the two-sided tape, and I don't want that, so I'm going to do another frame that's going to go over the acetate, but I don't want the frame to be visible through the window, so I'm going to cut out. So take the paper that you want to frame the inside and position it over your door or over the background, centered left to right, and close the door, and again trace where you just cut the opening. And now I'm going to trim the opening just outside the line. If I trim inside the line, it's going to be visible through my window, and I don't want that. So this one is going to go like that. So that will go like that. Now I'm going to trim this so that the corners are also rounded. I'm a little bit off, so I'm going to trim a little bit of this edge so that it's centered. And that's because I didn't center my piece when I cut my hole. Okay, that's better. So now I'm going to attach my acetate behind this piece. Then I attach my piece to my door, like that. You don't need to do the inside piece if you don't want to, but I find it just gives it a bit more finished look. Now before I attach the acetate and line the inside, I want to attach a magnet like that. Now I want to, my magnet's going to attach behind this black piece. So I center that, and I'm going to put it close enough to the top so that my other magnet will fit on this border. So now I just drop the magnet on top here and put a little piece of two-sided tape with the backing removed, and then I close this, and then I cover with some more two-sided tape like that. So now I can line the inside like that, and it's going to cover my magnet. And when you tape over the magnet, remove the tape backing from the magnet. And there is my oven door, and I will cut and add my pastry a bit later. Now, I'm also going to attach a little handle to my door, and I cut my piece of chipboard and I put two little brads on each end like that, and that's going to attach to my door like that. But to give it a little bit of dimension, because I also want to attach my little tea towel, I'm going to put some little pieces of chipboard underneath each end. So I'm going to grab my little scrap piece. And I'm going to make some little layers. Like that. And I'm going to glue these underneath the handle. I'm going to let this harden. Now I'm going to attach this to my door like that. And now I can attach my little tea towel, which I just cut from a piece of fabric. Slide that in there, and then I fold it in two, and I'm just going to put a little dab of glue in between the two layers. There we go. And I'm going to attach it to my oven. So you have the cover on when you're attaching it, so you can center it between the bottom lid and the bottom of the box. So I'm going to put some two-sided tape on there. And also only make sure you put two-sided tape around this black background, because you don't want to close the tape the edges of the door down. Again, I'm going to remove my two-sided tape backing from the magnet. So now, with my door closed, I'm going to center it left to right and top to bottom, nice and straight. And there we have it. So I'm going to cut my little tart and then I'm going to do the top elements. So here's my little tart, and I put my tape backing on there, and I'm going to position it where I want it on my oven, like that. Just below. Actually, maybe I'll just make it, I'll center it. Center it in the oven, and then I just press down like that. So now let's get started on the elements. I cut my circles, and I'm going to use the same buttons. You can use whatever you want. You can draw your elements on if you want, and you can use any assortment of buttons, works. I'm going to use these again, and I cut the shank on the back, and I'm just going to attach them to my circles. My glue gun is really dirty. It's from having glue on my fingers and ink. Okay, so I'm going to let this harden a little bit. In the meantime, I'm going to position these on my stove top. So I think like that would be good. There. Like that. So now I'm going to make the panel, the knobs on the panel, and then the knobs on the front of the oven.